Well, they missed the face mask. But the question is Goddard touching him when he gets the ball and he is? So he will be down. Ridgeway is the one that forced the fumble. And Davis is going to be down at that spot. No touchdown, but it's a takeaway for the Commanders on a call that will not sit well as they miss the face mask. No, these fans are pretty irate right now after they saw it on the big board.
I lost. There we go. What is up, TikTok? Happy Monday. The score is, I think the Eagles are still down. It's been a minute since I looked. As like I was saying last night, the Eagles need to lose one, and I think they'll lose one to a team that it matters nothing. Tell me they're not going to go to commercial and not show the score. Seriously? What kind of world is this we're living in? Like, are you kidding me? How do you go standby one? Yeah, it's still 29-21. There's 9 minutes to go in the game. Why they went to commercial break without showing the score, I don't know. But, Plum Dog, thank you so much for the heart gift. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Don. I appreciate that. Good looking out. Also have a 150 football gift goal. If we try to hit that, thank you so much for the hearts. I appreciate that. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Talking about the game yesterday, and if you're on my live at all last night, thank you so much. Thank you, Dom. I appreciate that. Thank you for the heart. Good looking out with the footballs as well. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful. Megmo, what's good? How are you, young lady? Going back before, as most of you know, I'm super ADD, so I bounce around, so please forgive me ahead of time. Talking about, if you're an Eagles fan, the Eagles need to lose, right? If I'm an Eagles fan, I want the Eagles to lose now. And lose to a team that really doesn't matter much. That's why I was cranking out my Airs reports from the weekend. That's why I think the Colts end up beating the Eagles. I know it sounds crazy. I'm not just some homer riding away because the Colts won one game. No, I really don't think that. I think the Eagles need a comeback to life type of game, and I think they'll get a loss. Hopefully it's not tonight. Nobody really likes Washington, right? And then I think the Eagles end up losing to a team like the Colts. That'll rattle them enough, knock them down. They'll get up, dust themselves off, and then come in fighting, come out swinging the remainder of the season. If not, if I'm an Eagles fan, my team going into the playoffs undefeated is really kind of the last thing that I want. I mean, that sounds great and all, but you want them to face some adversity. You want someone else to expose them before they get exposed in the playoffs, right? And you see my not coming at the Eagles sideways. I'm happy that the Eagles are doing what they're doing. That's what I'm saying. They're losing now, so there's something to be exposed about this team. You'd rather that be figured out now, and rather see them take one on the chin now, at this point in the season by a team that really doesn't matter much, and maybe punch them in the gut a little bit and see. I think that'll make them fight a little bit harder and stronger. My prediction of the Super Bowl, and this is where it's been. Yesterday, tweaked it maybe a little bit. And this is the game I think that we all need to see. And please forgive me if I haven't read your comment. I will try to get to it. I promise. A lot of times you just got to reel me back in. The game that I think we all need to see, we just don't know it, and we watched it yesterday, is the Vikings and Bills. Those were my two. Those were my two picks. I would love to see that game. I think the Vikings and the Bills would be a tremendous Super Bowl. They both have absolutely amazing fan bases that both deserve that game. Like the tickets to that game would be absolutely astronomical because there are fans that are sitting waiting now, with their willing to give their firstborn up to see that Super Bowl, whether it be the Vikings or the Bills. So that I hope that's what it is. Look, I've said since before, I think permitting Josh Allen is healthy. I think the Bills, this is the Bills' year. But I'm not ready to sound the alarms for the Bills fans just yet. And that noise, y'all, is my squeaky ironing board. I need a new ironing board. It's loud. This thing has been with me a lot of years. And it's taken a beating. Trust me. The Eagles just subbed in Kaepernick. Eagles going to win the game. This man irons more than anyone I've ever seen. I do. It's every night. Every night. I wear a uniform each and every day, 5 days, at least 5 days a week. And please forgive me. I wear a uniform 5 days out of the week. And I do not put this uniform on without it being freshly ironed, buttons freshly polished, all that good stuff. I still think the Eagles will find a way to win. There's 7:33 left in the game, a lot of time to go. Going to the Colts-Cowboys game for my birthday, first time to see Jerry. Great game. What a birthday game, man. That was my Gov, what's good, man? So the Colts-Cowboys game was always my dream game. I was a Cowboys fan before the Colts came to town as a kid. When I finally got to see the Colts, when they finally came to Indy and I finally got to see the Colts, it was absolutely amazing. I've never gotten to go to Dallas. I never got to see Texas Stadium. But and then even when the Colts came to town and I became a Colts fan, it was it was the team from my city. They weren't good. So I still followed the Cowboys because you're going to follow the team. And honestly, there were more Cowboys games on here in Indianapolis than there were Colts games because the Colts games were blacked out because the games weren't sold out at home. So Jeff Saturday is him. Thank you for sharing the live. I appreciate you. For real quick shameless plug. For those that haven't followed me, please smash that follow button if you would. I'm growing closer and closer to 150,000 followers each and every day. We're like 1,500 away, 1,600, or 1,400, somewhere in there. I wasn't really paying attention till this week. So with that being said, once we hit 150,000, we'll do a giveaway. I've got a ton of stuff I need to give away. I've got some autographed Bengals stuff from the Bengals game I went to a few weeks ago. Got some Thin Blue Line stuff. Hopefully you back the blue, or you're at least, supporter of law enforcement in some way, shape, or form. And if you are not looking to defund the police, then I guess you're a supporter. So I appreciate that. But anywho, I've got some cool stuff to give away. So once we hit to 150,000 followers, we'll do a giveaway of everybody that's out there. So I appreciate you. Yes, Houday. I tell you what, say what you want, and thank you so much for the fire guy. I had a great time at that game. I went to the Bengals-Falcons game here just a few weeks ago over in Cincinnati. The weather was absolutely phenomenal that day. It was almost 80 degrees, and it was an absolute great game. Love the game. They have a good time in Cincinnati. I will tell you that. They have a good time in Cincinnati. And they showed a good time. The law enforcement over there was good. The fans were fun. As I've mentioned before, one of my former students at the school I worked at was drafted to the Bengals last year. Got to play in the Super Bowl, and he's a running back, number 25, Chris Evans. Got to spend some time with him a little bit after the game. We went to dinner. It was an all-around super, super cool day. And this job, I've been very, very blessed with this job. Has put me in some really cool positions to do a lot of cool stuff, especially as a sports fan. On fields, with players, with coaches, combines, Super Bowls, Final Fours, national championships, that sort of thing. But being there as just a fan, not having to worry about working or somebody's safety or security or whatnot, and just being a fan and being able to kind of geek out a little bit, and go back to his apartment after the game was over and go out to dinner and see how a 24, 25-year-old millionaire lives in this life. It was really, really cool to see. So yeah, it was definitely a good atmosphere over there. What did you think about Jeff Saturday in the first game? And for those that are just trying to watch the game and you're listening to me talk, I apologize. I cannot show the game. You're watching me watch the game. If that makes any sense. I don't need the NFL coming after me. We'll talk a lot of football. We'll talk whatever you want. Only things I ask is that you be respectful. So, so when I went live last night, we spent a tremendous amount of time during the Colts game and then after the game on the live last night. And we talked to a ton of people. As a matter of fact, we broke a record on views. We had over 50,000 people come in the live last night during the 2.5 hours we were on, which was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much if you were a part of that. But I hadn't seen the Bill Cowher meltdown at that point in the live last night. I didn't watch any of the pregame. I didn't watch the NFL today, so I had not heard what everyone was referencing. I got to see that this evening finally, and just is Bill Cowher jaded? Is he mad that he didn't get a call to come coach the Colts? Or I'm really, and what a lot of people say. He had no TV experience when he was called up. So why I don't understand. I mean, I kind of understand his point somewhat, but not to the extent. Fumble! The Commanders are playing with purpose. 26-21, Commanders just got the ball back. I did not see what Pat McAfee had to say. Yeah, but he really was acting like somebody, and correct me if you think I'm wrong. I have no axe to grind with Bill Cowher or anything like that, but he truly, to me, acted like somebody that had some skin in this game, or like he had a personal vendetta against either Jim Irsay, Jeff Saturday, or the Colts organization when it came to this coaching hire. Like he had a vested interest in it. Ben, what is good? I just don't. ESPN walking their comments back now too about Saturday. You know what? They can kick rocks. And here's the thing. And this isn't a shot in the arm at Saturday. Not at all. But I truly think that this game would have gone. Well, no, I don't. I was going to say I think it would have gone on like it did yesterday, whether that would have been Gus Bradley, our defensive coordinator, or John Fox, or Bubba Ventrone, or somebody else that's already on that coaching staff. And I quickly corrected that thought because I don't think that had been the case. That was Jeff Saturday was a breath of fresh air into that locker room. And thank you so much for the likes. We hit 5K. I appreciate that. Jeff Saturday was a breath of fresh air into that locker room. That was definitely an outside of the box move. Very unconventional. We can agree with that. Kind of quirky. Okay. But is it just asinine or insane that the owner went back and relied on a future Hall of Famer that had played over a decade with that team, that had won a Super Bowl with that franchise, all of these things, somebody that's been a consultant to this team for years on end? Is that crazy to think that he would call on him or lean on him during this time and this moment mid-season when his team is in crisis and he needs a stopgap? He needed somebody to come in and stop the bleeding? No. I don't think, on the surface it sounds nuts, but when you really analyze it and look at it, it makes sense. Why put someone else in that position in a time your franchise needs it the most? Because the wheels are literally falling off. And if you can't say that the wheels weren't falling off of this Colts season, when we started the season out 0-1-1 against two division teams, both that were bad, and we were supposed to be an 11-win team out of the gate. We were, 11, 12 wins. If you can't say that the wheels weren't falling off of this, I don't think we're watching the same team. So the fact of bringing Jeff Saturday in, who cares that he wasn't a coach? You have head coaches on that staff. It would have been a lot different if they would have brought Jeff Saturday in and then fired the rest of their coaching staff and let Jeff bring all these different people off the street. I think that would have been, okay, what in the wide world of sports is going on here? But right, as it is now, Jeff Saturday's the hype man. He's the sales guy. He's the hype man. He's call it what you want. He is the face of the franchise. You bring him in. You let him pump the guys up. You let the coaches who are in place do their jobs, and the rest was history. And you could see what a difference that made yesterday. That was the first time the Colts had scored a point in the first quarter in over 7 games. That was the first time in almost 12 games and over 11 games that the Colts went into halftime with the lead. 11 games. That dates back to week 16 of the 21 season where the Colts lost to the Raiders in Indy. So it's been slow start after slow start, or no start rather, in many games. It's a good move. So, ESPN's going to walk it back. I hope all of these people that really just came after, and this wasn't just a disagreement. There was a lot of people that really went after the Colts, went after the organization. Even worse than that, but they took personal shots at Jim Irsay. His mental health, his well-being, all of these sort of things. So it was bad all the way around. I hope the Colts continue. Obviously, I hope the Colts continue on this trajectory. But we will see, right? I don't think, I'm not somebody, I'm a realist. I understand what's going on. I know the Colts aren't going to come in and win out. Oh, I can't say I know that. I don't think it's very probable that the Colts win out this season, make the playoffs, and have this Cinderella story. I don't think that to be the case. I do think Jeff Saturday comes in and deeply analyzes this team, and he is reporting back directly to the owner. They've cut the GM out of this. Now, the GM may be involved in those conversations that Jeff Saturday's telling Jim Irsay about. However, do I think he's really, being able to plan and make the next moves? No. I think he had that opportunity to do that, and that's why Chris Ballard's been put on notice with this. I think Jeff Saturday finishes the season out. He immediately transitions to a front office role. Jeff Saturday gets to bring in whatever head coach he wants, and he knows what kind of moves and direction he wants the team to go in already, because he's gotten a front seat look at what this organization needs. And I said this last night. I would, if I were a bet man, I would bet if you ask any other general manager in the National Football League, before they took their role as GM, if they would have had the opportunity to spend 7 or 8 weeks in that locker room as a head coach, or just as a coach at some capacity, and be able to analyze that team before they took control, I guarantee you all of them would salivate at that opportunity. I mean, this is how I think that's going to work. At least that's how I think it should work. Too much credit? No, it's not. Look, the Colts were just as dysfunctional as the Raiders, and I take that. And I'm responding to the comment that says, Colts beat a dysfunctional Raiders team. Too much credit has been given to Saturday. Absolutely not. It was two bad teams went head to head, right? And the Raiders were at home. It was a home game for them. So if in a team that like the Colts, that is losing, that is just taking it on the chin 2 weeks in a row, embarrassing loss after embarrassing loss, they fire their coach, they bring in a guy off the street. No, I think that story is more about the Colts finding a way to win that game than it is the Raiders shooting themselves in the foot or just crapping the bed, right? Like, if there were a team to lose that game yesterday, it should have been the Colts. They've got a brand new coach. that, you heard everyone, ESPN, Bill Cowher, everyone just continue to naysay this whole move and how just delusional and dysfunctional it is and all of these things. So, it's kind of right down the middle. But give credit where credit is due, right? I understand it was a 2-win Raiders team, so be it. Not ready to throw a parade for them. But that's not the final score is not what I was excited about yesterday. Honest to God, that wasn't. If the Colts would have lost that game, if the Raiders still would have won, I would have been equally as happy as I was last night. And that's a God's honest truth, because my expectations of this team for the 22 season, honest to God, went out the window at the end of week 2. I've had no expectations moving forward with this team. What I saw yesterday, mentioning we finally scored a point in the first quarter. We finally went in at halftime with the lead for the first time since last season. More so than that, there was other bright spots of this game. The offensive line being the biggest takeaway from yesterday. This is the same offensive line that allowed Jonathan Taylor last season to be the league's leading rusher. Same offensive line that allowed him to break just about every Colts running back franchise record. This is also the same offensive line that allowed 9 sacks in a game. The same offensive line that has done absolutely nothing the past 9 weeks. Nothing. Like embarrassing. The highest paid line in the game that has done absolutely nothing but sit on their hands. Like they have been an absolute embarrassment. I did not see that yesterday. I saw an offensive line that put in work, that were making an effort, that were trying, and guess what happened? Lo and behold, Jonathan Taylor could run the ball. Lo and behold, Matt Ryan, who started, big ups to Jeff Saturday on that, I guess, he had time to throw the football. The old man even ran a 39-yard run in Matt Ryan. So those were all bright, big major changes that we've seen just from a Monday to a Sunday. So there's a lot to talk about as a Colts fan today. Like a lot of positive things to talk about. And honestly, there hasn't been many bright spots of this season, if any. There really hasn't been. It's been absolutely insane. But just those few things that I mentioned right there, namely the line and how they played and how they finally stepped up. And it wasn't really they stepped up. They played like they're expected to play. They're the highest paid offensive line in football. And how they have played the previous 9 weeks of this season has been horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Thank you so much for the gift, Justin. I appreciate the football, man. So those are huge bright spots and big positive takeaways. It's the little things, man. It's the little wins. And those were little wins out of that game as a Colts fan. Hey, take it. Take it and run with it, man. But if we continue to build on that, and I think what Jeff Saturday is doing in his role there, he's going to continue to analyze this team. Because guys, and people keep saying, are we going to tank? Why aren't we tanking? You cannot expect a roster of professionals to tank. Keep in mind, majority of the guys on that roster, or any team for that matter, are not making Jonathan Taylor contracts. They're not making Matt Ryan contracts. They're not making Shaquille Leonard contracts. They're not making that type of money. These guys are not just going to lay down, even though if it would be for the betterment of this franchise, they're not going to lay down. They're auditioning for a job. And they've finally got, and it takes all phases for this to work well. And just like Jonathan Taylor, I've had people all season long, do I get rid of him out of my fantasy? What's wrong with JT? Do you think he'll come back? What is happening? This, that, and the other. Well, guess what? For JT to be good, or for him to perform at a peak level that he is historically performed at in the past 2 years, he needs the offensive line to do their job. And they have not done their job. So the fact that everybody it was kind of firing on, I won't say on all cylinders, but a lot more cylinders were firing for that matter yesterday. That's a big deal for this team. And if you're Jeff Saturday and you're analyzing this team and you're reporting back to the owner, hey, this is what we need. This person needs to stay. That person needs to go. All of these guys need to go. All of these guys need to stay. These are all big moves because all of these guys on this roster are auditioning for a job for next year, whether it be with the Horseshoe or somewhere else in this league. So that's why they're not going to lay down. They're not going to lay down. They're not going to roll over. They're going to continue to fight. They're professionals. There's nobody in this league that gets to this point that is okay with losing. I would say for the most part, maybe a few here and there, but I don't think that's going to happen. So, for those that don't know me, I'm Officer Craig. I'm a police officer that talks life, law, and football, man. We talk a lot of football here at the moment because it's football season. If you would smash that follow button, I'd be very, very grateful. We're really close to 150,000 followers. So if you give me a follow, we'll do a big giveaway once we hit that mark. Invite your friends, share the live. I appreciate you. Somebody said not making the wild card. I don't. And as I sit here, I don't foresee us making the playoffs, even a wild card berth. And even though we're in the worst division in the league, right? I don't foresee that happening. Not saying that it can't, but I just don't foresee that happening because there are still areas that need work. There are. This is still a Chris Ballard, Frank Reich built roster, right? So just like Michael Pittman Jr., I'm a huge fan of MPJ. Big fan. I think the guy's a tremendous receiver, and I think he's got a very high ceiling, and I don't think he's come anywhere close to peaking yet. However, do you, and I'm going to ask you here whether you're a Colts fan or not, thank you so much for the football gift. I appreciate you. Thank you. Do you think Michael Pittman Jr. is a true number one wideout? Thank you so much for the heart. I appreciate that. Good looking out. Do you think my MPJ isn't a number one? And that's my point. And I hate saying that because I pick on him. I feel like I pick on him a lot, or that wide receiver room. But there's a reason for that, because fans, media, the talking heads here in Indy and across the country had come at Chris Ballard and like, what are you doing? Who are you going after in free agency as a wide receiver? Because we did not have that true number one. And Chris Ballard continually, it's like, we're good. We don't need anybody. I'm content with what we have. That's why Jeff Saturday's where he is. That's why Chris Ballard, if you look back to a week ago Monday, when he looked like he was being drug out with a pew-pew to his back and being set at that podium. Mrs. Kwan, thank you so much. It looked like he was being forced to sit at that podium. Chris Ballard wanted to be anywhere else other than on that stage with Jeff Saturday and Jim Irsay, because he knows, and he knew then, he could see the writing on the wall, that he's being cut out of this. He has been put on notice with they can twist that any way that they want, but he knows he's been put on notice. I'm surprised y'all beat the Raiders, to be honest. Look, I think a lot were. And that was yesterday was a statement. For the Colts, yesterday's win, that was a statement win. It was a statement to the Eagles lost. My TV must be behind. Game looks like it's over. And as I said last night, I'm probably going to have Eagles fans coming at me because I talked about this last night. I said the Eagles need to lose. They need to lose to a team that, like the Colts. I thought the Colts would beat the Eagles, and I really anticipated the Colts being the first team to beat them. But Washington comes out of nowhere and beats the Eagles tonight. But if you're an Eagles fan, I would welcome this loss. I'm telling you, you want to welcome this loss. You don't want your team coming into the last part of the season having that, and this is coming from a fan who, during the Peyton Manning era, we would always have these undefeated seasons towards the end of the season, and it becomes so much a distraction. I don't care. Look, somebody's going to say, the Dolphins are popping champagne. It's the same thing. So the fact that they take this loss, let them take this loss on the chin, let them get it out of the way. It's not, in the grand scheme of things, does it mean anything? No. They lost, they'll be 8-1. The Commanders will be 5-5. Let them do their thing. They'll stand up. They'll be a better team for this loss right here. And that's why I said it needed to be by somebody that was almost embarrassing. So they were exposed tonight. Washington found a way to expose Philadelphia, obviously. And if you're an Eagles fan, embrace it. Embrace it. because this is going to show what this team's really made of, how they respond to this. They should have been undefeated this season. It was never going to happen, man. This team was, and I've had a lot of Eagles fans come at me just for saying what I'm saying. Look, there's a lot of unrealistic football fans in the world. I'm sorry. I know. Of course, I want my team to be undefeated, and I want them to be the best team ever to play the game of football, and all of these things too. And I have kind of an attachment to the Philadelphia Eagles because Frank Reich has been trying to build. Thank you so much for the football gifts. Frank Reich has been trying to build the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles here in Indianapolis for the past 5 years. And that's what he's been doing. So that's another part of what Jeff Saturday is going to have to do is he's going to have to purge the Philadelphia Eagle taste and fingerprint out of West 56th Street over here on the west side of Indianapolis. Fish Tank, thank you so much for the football gifts. Good looking out. I appreciate you. But how did that work out for us? As far as the Colts, it was terrible. I hated it. That was one of the things that that was actually the first thing that I started to not like about Frank Reich, and that was how he was trying to and what it was doing is it was erasing the culture that this team had built here in Indy for so long, and he was replacing it with this culture of the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, these guys don't even know how to dance. They're not used to winning. But he was trying to replace this culture here in Indy with whatever that was of the Philadelphia Eagles. So if there were any players available, any coaching staff that was available that had anything to do with that 2017 team, he wanted to bring them here. Look, where did Carson Wentz and Nick Foles both end up? Here in Indy, under Frank Reich. Like, if you really dig deep on that and look at assistant coaches and trainers and different people, he has anybody that's been available from that team, he's wanted to bring them here. And I'm okay with trying to rebuild a team that did really well or that won a Super Bowl. But it gets to the point where you cannot allow that to happen, where it starts affecting a culture that's already been built. And the culture that was here in Indy, and that's what Jim Irsay is starting to do now. Thank you so much for the gift. That's what Jim Irsay is starting to do now. You see, right on. Thank you so much. Keep them coming. I love it. Thank you so much. But you see Jim Irsay bringing in these former Colts, Jeff Saturday, Reggie Wayne, Dave Thornton. Like that was one of the first ones that was by Jeff Saturday's side yesterday, as former linebacker David Thornton back in the championship Colts era. And these are guys whose pictures are up on the walls of that facility. These are guys that have won, that have been to the Super Bowl. They brought one home. What a better way to have a 23, 24-year-old millionaire to look up to you or to gain that respect, because they know these guys have been there and done that. Mr. Kwan, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate the gifts. Eagles lost because what'd that say? Eagles lost because they don't want to give it their best player. And that may be, but look, at the end of the day, whatever the case may be, this was coming. The Eagles they've escaped a few that they probably could have lost or maybe should have lost, but they found a way to win. But here's the thing. As I said, if I'm an Eagles fan, I embrace this win. Of course you want your team to go undefeated, but no. Who cares about the regular season? Ask a Titans fan, which I'm surprised I haven't seen Tighten Up this entire time. Ask a Titans fan. Does it really matter what your team does in the regular season? No. They've got to go to the playoffs and win. And this makes the Eagles, this game you watch tonight, makes the Eagles much more prepared for the playoffs, than they were before coming into this game. That's just my take on it. I appreciate the follow. Thank you so much. Fish Tank, what is good? Taylor is becoming very unlikable. As in Jonathan Taylor? Oh, Taylor Hennessy. Gotcha. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. I didn't mention this last night, and it doesn't have anything to the Eagles. I'm going to bounce back to the Colts and the Raiders game for a second. But talking about, so we discussed this at length last night for Raiders Nation that may be out there. People already, and I saw it, and I heard it all day today on the radio and all night tonight, that Josh McDaniel should be the next coach fired. Josh McDaniel should be on his way out. Here's my take on the Josh McDaniel thing. I say there's no way and where that Josh McDaniel is out of Vegas anytime soon. And I mean within the next 3 to 5 years. I predict Derek Carr is done in Vegas. Derek Carr is done. That's my prediction. I don't think Josh McDaniel ever wanted Derek Carr as his quarterback, but he knew, as did the ownership, that they couldn't come in before he'd coached a game and make sweeping changes across the board. So what is happening? This is happening. Derek Carr is playing his last season in Vegas. They go get some good draft picks for Derek Carr. They trade him, which they can. Everybody's like, he's got a trade, no trade clause, this, that, and there's ways they can get around that. I say they trade Derek Carr. Josh McDaniel is the future coach of the Raiders. He's going to build the offense that he wants. And hear me out. You know who he's close to? That would be really good at coming in and playing for a year in a warm climate like Vegas? Any guesses? Anyone? Yes, and Carr to the Colts. That's where I'm going with this, but I've got another theory. But who do you think they've replaced Derek Carr with? Right out of the gate. Boom. TB12. Tom Brady, I can see, look, they get rid of, Josh McDaniels not going anywhere. So if you're a Raiders fan, you think that they're getting ready to fire Josh McDaniels, I'm telling you what, they brought this guy in on the long term. You don't think over the past 5 to 10 years that Josh McDaniel has been able to go coach pretty much anywhere that he's wanted in the National Football League? Because he has. Indianapolis being one of the places. And he left us standing at the altar. Right? And that was, 5-6 years ago. He stayed the course till the right offer came along. And I guarantee you, he has more control over the future of that team in Vegas than people really even know. He has not even begun to start building that franchise yet. He kept Derek Carr on because he could not make moves before he even coached the game by getting rid, like the fan base would have erupted, especially on the heels of the season, because the Raiders overperformed last year. They weren't expected to perform like they did on the heels of their head coach being fired, just a few weeks into the season. Josh McDaniel is going to build an offense out there. They're going to get rid of Derek Carr this offseason. Very well, and I think Indy could be a stopping place. I wanted to see that to begin with, but I say Indy makes a deal for Derek Carr and drafts a quarterback, but that's a story for another time. But in the immediate, they have all these draft picks that they're going to get what they have and what they get from possibly Indianapolis or whatever trade that they make. They bring in TB12 on a 1-year deal because why not? Where else, if Tom Brady's going to leave Tampa, where else in this league do you think he would go? Where do you think he would go? What is the common sense spot? McDaniel's his guy, man. McDaniels is his guy. If Brady has an opportunity to win another ring before he goes, where does he go? You've already brought Devontae Adams here, and that's another reason that they kept Derek Carr in for a year. You don't bring him to Vegas without Derek Carr. It just doesn't work out. So you keep him as bait. You bring him over. You get rid of Carr. You bring in TB12. And now we're already talking. Now it's already piqued some people's interest. They're like, okay, I'm going to buy that ticket. I'm going to watch that game, right? I think Vegas is a more obvious spot than San Francisco. I mean, think about it. Why? He would be stepping right into a system that he knows in his sleep. Why would he go anywhere else? He doesn't need the money. It's not like it's in Buffalo. It's warm climate on the close enough to the West Coast. Tell that to Tom Brady that he's not winning another one. And I understand he grew up a Niners fan, but I think the guy wants to try to legitimately win another Super Bowl than he does just to play another year. And maybe he does. I grew up a Cowboys fan, but if somebody I'm really tight with is coaching somewhere that in that general vicinity, then why not? I like coming up with these and thinking out of the box of these theories or these different takes like this, and I think that's a take that shoot holes in it, But to me, that take makes sense. That just makes sense. Brady staying. Giselle found another man. Watched him for the win. 45, but he gave up his family. Absolutely, he did. When did you turn a Colts fan? When the Colts came, I've been a Colts fan since the Colts came to Indy in '84. Since they landed here on the Mayflower, which was, I think it was March of 1984. I was young. I wasn't super young, but I was young. I think I was second grade, somewhere in there. Who are the Colts going to get for head coach? That's a good question. I think there's one thing that we can guarantee, and I can't say guarantee because nothing's guaranteed in this life, but if I were a betting man, one person that we know it won't be is Jeff Saturday. And I don't believe that he was ever intended to come in to be coach, not even for the short term or long term. He may have the coach moniker, but he's not really coaching that team. Jeff Saturday is the hype man. He is the cheerleader for that team, and he will have a front office position. I will be shocked, floored, surprised, all of these other things if he does not become the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts. It makes perfect sense. This way, what better position could you be in as a general manager from coming from the head coaching position where you know every aspect of that team, you know what the players are saying in the locker room, you know how the coaches are coaching. He doesn't need to do anything with that coach but just to lift guys up. He needs to lift guys up and take the podium and be the polished mouthpiece that he is after the game's over, wins and losses, right? And then in the meantime, he's constantly evaluating everybody on this roster. Coaches, players, trainers, you name it. He's evaluating everybody and reporting directly back to the owner. And then when it comes, I think Jeff Saturday is the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts come February. By time the combine, I think Saturday is the GM. Colts beating the Eagles Sunday. He's a great motivator. And look, so what I was saying about Carr. Do I want another retread quarterback? No. I don't want anybody's leftovers. I really don't. Do I think Derek Carr is playing this season at his peak performance or at his typical level? Absolutely not. I honestly think Josh McDaniel has a hand in that. And did you hear his very emotional, passionate, tearful statement that he was talking about? And I believe he was talking about Hunter Renfrow and the other one. What's the other guy's name? I can't remember. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart. But he was talking about players on his team. He didn't mention anybody but name, but he was referencing some people not giving their all or basically playing through injuries. And I get that. And I heard this today on the radio where they said they thought that he was alluding to some players on his team that are sitting out with injuries that when you're 3-7 are going to sit the bench, but if you were 7-3, they would probably play through those injuries. And I get, that's understandable because there are guys at that point, if you're 3-7, what's the point, right? Am I going to go out and risk damaging my body more at that point? and some guys won't, and some guys just don't have it in them. Now, if they were 7-3 with Hunter Renfrow and whomever else, I'm not saying they're not hurt or injured, but would they be trying harder to get back on the field? Probably. I'm guessing yes. But going back to that, I don't think how Derek Carr performing now is how he is or who he is. I think Josh McDaniel does have a hand in that, because I don't think Josh McDaniel ever wanted Derek Carr as his quarterback. We've talked about this in the past. So it is what it is. But if the Colts, want to go get a quarterback that can play now, maybe they depends on what they're going to ask for him. But the Colts still have to go draft a quarterback. The Colts can't trade away. I'm not interested in them trading away their number one pick. Even if it involved bringing Derek Carr here, I think it's time for this team to draft. So, told you Matt Ryan would play again. I thought he was done. You did. I give you credit where credit is due. You did. And I didn't listen to much pregame or whatnot. So when about 20 minutes before the game started, or 15, when I heard that he was starting, I was shocked. I'm like, okay. I see where we're going. I like Chris Ballard. They're saying Saturday's decision was all Irsay. Oh, absolutely. Not even close. Like, not only Irsay. Chris Ballard had zero to do with the Jeff Saturday decision. And that's why, if you look back a week ago during this press conference, Chris Ballard, I wouldn't have been surprised to watch Chris Ballard get up and walk off the stage during that press conference. He has nothing to do with it. He will have nothing to do with Jeff Saturday and how Jeff Saturday reports. Chris Ballard has been cut out of the equation here in Indy. So, you know how the coach usually filters things through and reports to the GM? That's no longer happening here in Indy. Chris Ballard has been isolated. The coach is now reporting directly to the owner. The owner here in Indy has put his guy in place that he trusts, that he believes in, that he knows isn't going to sway him for whatever reason, because that's not what's been happening. Chris Ballard and Frank Reich have been telling the owner what they think, or what they think he needs to hear, which obviously hadn't been the truth. And I'm not saying that they're lying, but it obviously hadn't been a valid representation of how things truly are. Because, and I think I stated that well enough, it has not been a valid representation of how things truly are on what they've been telling the owner. And that is, we were a team that was 3-4-1. And we were supposed to be a team that was in first place in the AFC South at this point. But with all that being said, the Jeff Saturday move is a good move. I like it. I think the Colts are still going to lose some games. Chris Ballard is a great dude. But all right, hold on. I'm going to ask you, the short film dude. He said Chris Ballard is a great dude to build a team. Chris Ballard just didn't get hired here in Indy. What has he built here? And I'm not being sarcastic. I'm asking, what has he built in the past 6 years here in Indianapolis? What has he built that at the 6-year mark that should give him the opportunity to continue in that position? It's the same way with Frank Reich. People said the same thing about Frank Reich, but a lot of people get a good person or a good human confused with being good at your job. And that is, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Just because somebody's a good dude or a good human being, that it is possible to be that and not good at your job or not good at a certain job. Not saying Frank Reich is a bad coach, saying he was not a good coach for the Indianapolis Colts. He may go somewhere else and be a great fit. He was not that here. And the same way with Chris Ballard. I've been happy with some of his moves, but Chris Ballard's arrogance and lack of moves in free agency and lack of spending money where he's needed to spend money, when there's obvious holes and voids. That has been the consistent theme with him during his tenure here in Indy. And, Monday morning quarterback can see that. Even a passive Colts fan can see that's been part of the problem. So, and like I said, I'm asking that because I'm not trying to be sarcastic here. I'm just saying, well, I don't see that he has afforded anything more than what he gets if his time here is up. You see what I'm saying? If he chose not to draft a quarterback, he chose to try to to continue getting retreads. He chose to not pick up any wide receivers in free agency. Scott, good night, man. Have a good one. Thanks for stopping by, brother. Get rid of him.
Jalen, get inside. It's freezing out there. No, that's okay.
Take care of it. So, maybe Frank had a hand to play in that, though. Oh, thank you. Had a hand to play in what? In the lack of quarterback? No, that was Chris Ballard was very vocal about that. He would continuously say there's no way his ideology with that was what oh, Greg, I didn't see your question, man. What was it? Don't block me. It was an honest question. Greg's good. I didn't see it. We got to prioritize JT against the Eagles. I agree. But look, the line's got to continue doing what they did yesterday. They have to continue to perform. Like, it looked like a completely different team. Hey, man, another guy. Oh, do you really? Who was it? And I didn't get to know everybody in the Leadership Academy, but I got to know quite a few of them. But yeah, if the line played, and like I said last night, I ended up watching the line more than yeah, Ryan, the whole take of beating the Eagles, I keep in mind I wasn't expecting them to lose to Washington, so I might Dave Bowles, okay. I know who that is. I'm both. I try to be both. And I guess a lot of that depends on who you ask, right? You can be both. And there are guys in this league that are both. But look, Frank Reich was an unproven. He'd never been a head coach in this league. He'd never been anything more than a coordinator, right? So how much time do you give him? I assure you, if either one of those guys had been put on any other, or if they were on any other franchise, they wouldn't have lasted this long. 5 and 6 years. If you're not performing at that point, and you're going into the 5th and 6th year, and you are just crapping the bed. You've lost every except for one. You've lost 4 out of 5 divisional games. Yeah, it's time to rip that Band-Aid off.
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today.
Oh, no kidding.
Or visit CoventryDirect.com.
Matt Ryan hasn't been much this year, but look, here's the other thing with that again, and you hate to put so much on that, but that's the difference between the Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan. Carson Wentz had a line that was performing last year. I mean, look what JT did. Look at the time Carson Wentz had. He had a lot more time than Matt Ryan ever did coming into this season. He wouldn't get rid of the ball fast enough some of the times. But Matt Ryan, in his defense, now guy hadn't been able to hold on to the football. But my Lord, he was just getting lit up game after game after game after game. Because the line, you would watch them. I mean, they would go up like Ryan Kelly. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. If you watched Ryan Kelly here even 3 weeks ago, he'd snap the ball, and if this play got stretched out at all, he was after 1,000, 2. By the time he got to 2, he'd already given up. Like, he was going backwards. He'd given up on the play, and guys were just busting through, getting to the quarterback, play after play after play. So it was bro gets sacked every half play. Now, oh, right on. Colts win 27-20 against the Eagles. JT rushed for a touchdown game winner. Look, I really hope, and I may end up going to that game. I haven't decided, or working it. I haven't worked a game yet this year. That may be a good one to work. Now that, and I'll be honest with you, man. I was excited. Yesterday was the first Colts game I had been excited about since week 2, and that's Greg. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. And that's sad. It sucks, man, because you look forward so much, and you all know how much we talk football and how much we enjoy the game, but you wait the entire off season for it and just think and breathe and can't wait till football starts back up, and then the season starts and the franchise is feeding you this. Hey, we're going to the playoffs. We're going to own the AFC South again. We're an 11-12 win team, and we come out 0-2 or 0-1-1. But a tie to me is a loss because it's not a win, right? And both those games were against division games, and they were must-win games because the Colts, and those were statement games. And that's why at the end of week 2, when we lost to Jacksonville in Jacksonville again, not only did we lose there again, we got shut out week 2. We didn't score a point. Like, the embarrassment from that, and this team knew what was at stake for this season, this game, and everything else. And for them to go out and perform like they did said everything that we needed to know about this regime and Frank Reich, him as a coach, and where this team was. And to me, when that game was over in Jacksonville, the season was done. The season was over. And it's been over. I watch the games because I will always watch a Colts game, but I can't remember. I would rather the team just go out and suck and lose every game. And that's why you'd hear me complain. I'm like, this team can't even lose consistently. Because at least if you lose consistently, at least at the end of the year, there's a payoff, right? You get the payoff in that high draft pick. But when you have a team like the Colts that gets shut out in Jacksonville, that loses 2 divisional games, and then plays Kansas City at home and wins against Kansas City, you've got big problems. You can't continue to have these peaks and valleys. And that's what this Colts team has been. So I'm hoping Jeff Saturday is that breath of fresh air. You could see a big difference just in the game yesterday, regardless of what the final score was. Even if the Colts would have lost, I would still been very excited to see what we saw. I think it was Lauren. I saw something about the Chief question. I appreciate you. Thank you if you're still on here. It was a surprise. It definitely was not anything that was expected. And like I said, I don't know if that's something I will continue to endure long term or not. We'll see. If all I can do is be me, and if that's not good enough, I'm not willing to change. I mean, I'll change some things on how I operate, but not willing to change me. So we'll see what happens. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. Be at the game against the Eagles and the Steelers, so I might see you there. That'd be awesome. I'm going to decide here, depending on how this week goes, whether I'll be able to go to that Eagles game. And like I said, I love working some games I usually try to at least work one or two, just because it's a cool experience. You get to do some cool stuff, but I just can't fan out. Like, I can pay attention and you can watch games, but I appreciate it, man. Thank you. But it's weird, like, and talking about work for a minute, when you get to these different levels, like administrative levels, you don't do really police work anymore. You're involved in police work, but you're not really doing it anymore, and things change, like, immediately. It was like a switch was flipped. The phone calls that I got changed, my email, my inbox completely changed, everything changed, literally overnight. And that was a lot and not all of it was good stuff, you know what I mean? Not like, oh, this is fun and exciting. No, it wasn't that, because of how things have been. So it's taken me a little bit to get used to. Look at him. He said, we set the damn tone. Man, I wish he played for the Colts. That's another opportunity. We could have really... We should have... Terry McLaurin wants to be here in Indy. He's from here. He would love to play here. I think the Colts should have made a move for him. And I think they could have. I think they absolutely could have. I mean, heck, Washington took Carson Wentz from us. Why would I guarantee you we could have made out a pretty decent deal for Terry McLaurin. Yeah, Ballard passed on McLaurin 4 times. I didn't know it was 4 times, but I knew it was quite a bit. Desk work's never fun. No, it's not. And I'm a people person. I mean, I can literally stand here and talk to a phone, basically, for hours without anybody talking back to me. So that's not something that's for everyone. But I need that people interaction. You know what I mean? But even more so than that, I do my job, the job that I do, because I want to make a difference in a kid's life. I would rather deal with kids that act like kids than adults that act like kids. And not saying adults can't change or whatnot, but for the adults here, we're kind of stuck in our ways. We can change as adults, but typically once we get to a certain point in life, you're kind of who you are, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. You're kind of who you are. But when you're dealing with adolescents and kids, and they're going through it, and especially now, there's so many kids that are going through adult-type stuff, that have adult-type trauma and issues in their life. And I went through a lot of that when I was a kid. I mean, I went through a ton of it, and I would have killed to have somebody that would have been there to help navigate me through those times and those situations, and I didn't have it. And I try to be that for kids now. I always try to be the person that I wish I would have had at that point in my life. And that is what's fulfilling about this job. That's why I do it on a daily basis. People ask me why I left the road and went to go work in schools. That's why. That is why. Because you can. You can make a difference in kids' lives. Like, there's so many kids out there that need loved, that need guidance, that need just adult supervision and interaction, that don't get it. It's absolutely insane. And all of us, no matter how old you are, you all can remember being a kid, and either you were like that or having other friends that were like that. So no matter how many years ago that was, it's so much more now. You add the pressures of social media, and I'm not making excuses for kids nowadays, but I tell you what, I wouldn't trade with any of these kids for any amount of money. And that's the God's honest truth, because it's different now. It's truly different. We weren't, when I was in school, I wasn't worrying about somebody coming in and shooting up the school. We weren't training and doing drills in case that happens. Like, I talk to these kids, like after Uvalde and all these different school shootings, and it's just, it's part of life. They're not shocked, and some of them are maybe a little bit, and a lot of them are scared, but the amount of them that aren't scared, because they've already been there, done that, and they've accepted that that's part of going to school in the year of 2022, it sucks. It's a sobering reality of where we are as a society. So as I get off my soapbox here, that's why I do my job. And if I can continue doing that, and if I am blessed with the opportunity to do this at a higher role and try to guide others to do this job as I have, because this job's not for everyone. And you can't teach somebody. I can teach you law enforcement. Anybody can. But I can't teach you how to care or how to love on somebody. You have to have compassion. You have to have humanity. You have to have all of these things. And that's a lot harder to teach. Now, you can guide. I think that's something that can eventually come, and your heart can be opened up and warmed in different ways. But it's just different. So if I'm able to be in that position, I want to build the best group of human beings that I could find that would, continue to work wonders and miracles in kids' lives. That would, Sheriff. Well, I worked for a sheriff's department for over a decade. That is and when I switched over to a PD and wearing that blue, I would always love to go back to work for a sheriff's department again. Bears fan here. I'm sorry. Dude, I watched a video of a Bears fan throwing a Lions fan down like 2 flights of steps. Did you guys see that? I think it was on ESPN or Barstool. One of the two did it. Now, on the flip side of this, Lions fans, and what's funny is I was just talking about this last night. I said, I want to see a cocky Lions fan. We just talked about this last night. Because if you follow me or know me at all, I am a fan, not of the Detroit Lions, but I'm a fan of Detroit Lions fans. And that's what I want to see. I think that franchise and that fan base, they're loud, they're proud. You know who they are. They represent their team year after year after year after year. And it's always like, you a Lions fan? And as they're in their jersey and it's July and everything else, they're always like, unfortunately, yeah. The reaction's always the same. So it 4 firsts. For who? But anyways, yeah, there was a Lions win 2 in a row, man, and this guy's at Soldier Field just bumping his gums, telling Bears fans bye, recording it all. Yeah, he got shoved down the stairs. For Lamar, yeah, squirrel. 4 firsts for Lamar. Ugh. What they give for Deshaun? Yeah, they're dying to get crazy for Lions Super Bowl contender team. Now, right, like I say that, but I would enjoy that for about 1 season. That would be it. Coming from somebody that's a Pacers fan, I've had to contend with Pistons fans. No, I would end up hating them after about a season, or after a season. But I'm ready to see some cocky Lions fans. I think they deserve it. Oh, look, the Bears, I think, and we've talked about this ad nauseum and even in the offseason before when people were, asking me about Flus. The Bears are going to be decent. The Bears are going to be okay. I don't think anybody should have expected to see the Bears win the division, thinking that they were going to win the division this season or even make the playoffs. I think, I said they were going to move the needle leaps and bounds and get much closer to it. But Justin Fields, this is really his first real season. Like, they tried to ruin Justin Fields last season. And the Bears have been good at ruining good quarterbacks that they draft. And they were well on their way to doing it to Justin Fields. Same way Jacksonville was well on their way of ruining Trevor Lawrence. So it's trade Taylor for another first and a second and give Deion Jackson every down. Look, to me, going back to the Colts, there's nobody that's exempt. I don't think there's anybody that dodges the bullet. We don't have a franchise quarterback. So without that, you don't have that centerpiece of this team. There's nobody. Look, we don't need to keep JT. If we get a first round pick for JT or a first and a second, I love you, JT, but deuces. We've got to get a franchise quarterback. We do no team in the 2022 National Football League needs an all-pro running back to win a championship. It just doesn't happen. You don't need it. The running back doesn't have that role as much as they used to anymore. Now, you're definitely not going to win a championship without that high-caliber quarterback. So at this point, I don't think there's anybody that should be on that exempt list that we can't or don't even entertain the idea of trading. I would hate to see JT go, but I was for trading him in this offseason because no matter what, his stock's still not as high as now as it would have been in February or April. You know, it wasn't. So, hold on, I gotta unplug this iron real quick. Guys, I got a few more minutes and I gotta bounce here just shortly. 2 picks, JT for Justin Fields. Yee! I like Justin Fields, but probably not here. I want to develop our own guy. That's what I think the Colts need. But Chris Ballard is right with that. And like I was saying, he always said, you know, there's not a faster way for a GM to lose their job than drafting a quarterback. He is right about that in a lot of ways, but that's why, guess what? You better make sure that draft pick's a good one, right? So, and that's what I think we need. Because looking back on all the quarterbacks that we have passed up, what do you expect from Deshaun? From him? I don't know. Like, look how is he still the same guy that we saw in Houston? That played in Houston? It's hard to say, right? Like, we haven't seen Deshaun Jackson play. And it's going on over 2 seasons now? That's a long time not to play football. Now, surely to goodness he's stayed in shape and he's continued to, but continued to play ball and do other things. But it's been 2 years since the dude's played. That's a loaded question, my guy. Short film, dude, that is I'm curious about your short films as well. That's a loaded question, man. Sad thing is there's nobody I am crazy about. But I wanted, and that's why I was talking about, I don't know if you were here when I was talking about Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is going to be done in Vegas. I would have been more apt, and even this offseason, I would have preferred the Colts getting Baker Mayfield than Matt Ryan. And the reason for that was Baker Mayfield had a higher ceiling, meaning he could play a lot longer. Matt Ryan's 37 years old. The same, I guess, with Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr's 27 or 29, 30, somewhere in that 28 to 30 range, I think he is. I'm just throwing numbers out there now, seeing if one sticks. But I think he's close to 30. Meaning he's still right there. He's in the peak of his career. I think I would like to see the Colts with somebody like that and then draft a quarterback. That way that quarterback can develop for a year or two, a lot like... And Green Bay has seemed to have had the recipe for this, right? Now, that's still to be determined. They've got Aaron Rodgers still playing now, and they've got a quarterback that they went after and drafted and loved. How many seasons ago was that? That's basically set and has done nothing. Now, we'll see. Only time will tell how much he's truly developed under Aaron Rodgers. And we'll find out. But that's what I ideally I would love to see the Colts do. But I do think Derek Carr will be available. Because I think that is a done deal. Remember I said this. Because I don't see Josh McDaniel leaving Vegas in any way, shape, or form. I think Derek Carr, it's a wrap for him. Go back in time and redraft for the Colts. Yeah, right? Like, if that would have been the case, we'd have never drafted Andrew Luck and we would have kept Peyton Manning. I would have gone back that far if I could go back. I would have kept Peyton Manning here. I hated that. I will never get over that. Because Peyton Manning, I think, deserved the opportunity to fail. And I didn't know for many years that Peyton Manning was willing to... He didn't want to leave this team so bad that he was willing to develop Luck. He did not want to play on... He wanted to retire a Colt. He was okay with them drafting Luck. He wanted them both to be on the roster. And that was something that rarely gets talked about because the Colts really did him dirty, I think, when it comes to that. He was willing to do whatever it took, contract, renegotiating his contract, anything, in order to bring Luck in and to be able to keep them both. He just wanted that opportunity to prove himself and to play football. And once I learned that was just... And for him to still be able to come back here and put on a happy face and put that blue jacket on and let Jim Irsay, parade him around. Once a Colt, always a Colt, this, that, and the other. That there's a reason Peyton Manning lives in Colorado. And there's a reason he's still there. As much as Peyton Manning loves this team and this franchise, there's a lot of ill feeling towards them as well, and he has a right to that feeling. Grigson or Ballard? Ooh, Polian. I tell you what, Grigson or Ballard. That used to be people be like. I'll tell you this. I think Ryan Grigson gets a raw dog deal and name here in Indy. His name, so many Colts fans are like, oh, I hate that dude, couldn't stand that dude, this, that, and the other. His draft picks weren't that, like, he missed on some, yeah, but guess what? Ballard's missed on a ton. And if you go back and you look at a list of the draft picks of the two, you're going to go with the draft picks out of Grigson. That's just on who on whose picks ended up being better. 9 times out of 10, you're going to pick Grigson's picks. Now, I think a part of Grigson's problem was Chuck Pagano. I think a lot of that was them. Grigson rubbed a lot of people in the locker room wrong. He did. But I think Chuck Pagano had a hand in a lot of that as well. Biggest weakness besides our quarterback situation. A week ago, I would have told you it was the line. And it still could be. That could also be our biggest strength. But right now, as it sits, quarterback, we don't have a quarterback. And if we did get a quarterback, we don't have anybody to throw to. And left tackle. Those are the 3 glaring areas that needed addressed in the offseason that everybody on a daily basis over and over and over again addressed this franchise, addressed Chris Ballard with the question, what about left tackle? Surely to God you're not Matt Breyer. Matt Breyer's it. Matt who? Who? Matt, this is a guy that literally laughed out loud when they told him he was going to he was going to start at left tackle. He laughed because that wasn't his gig. When you're paying a guard and Quentin Nelson $20 million, and the same with we don't have a number one wide receiver. You've got Michael Pittman Jr., who I think a great deal of, but we have done him a disservice by not bringing in a veteran or a true number one wide receiver, because it's never taken the pressure off of Michael Pittman Jr. You've got to have somebody on the other side that's going to take that pressure and that coverage off of Michael Pittman Jr. You've got to give him some breathing room. Now, will Alec Pierce eventually be that? Yeah, eventually, but not now. I think, and that's all on Chris Ballard. That's all on Chris Ballard. I appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out. I need to bounce too. It's almost midnight. I didn't realize how late it was. Thank you all so much for hanging out, talking football with me. This is very, very therapeutic for me. I hope it is you as well, especially when I get to talk Colts football. I enjoy it, and I got to talk some work in there as well. But if you haven't yet, please smash that follow button. Give me a follow. Everybody needs a friend that's a cop, right? Even if it's just something to reference. And if not, everybody needs a friend that can talk football with. So I appreciate you. Before I wrap up, I cannot believe it. I had over 1,000 people in here, and I never even advertised this once. This was the whole point of me coming on here tonight. And squirrel, I got distracted by all of the Colts goings on. This Thursday night football. So I usually go live on Mondays and Thursdays as we've got football going on, and then typically during a Colts game on Sunday. But this Thursday, offensive lineman, we've got a special guest coming on that I will get some time to talk to over the phone, so you guys can ask him some questions, whatever the case may be. He's a senior at The Ohio State University. Big Thanos, from The Ohio State University, offensive lineman DeJuan Jones. DeJuan I've known for a long time. He was a student of mine here in Indy, followed his career. If you don't know him, look him up. He is a mountain of a man, and he will be playing football on Sundays come next year. So check him out. He's agreed to come on Thursday night. We're going to spend some time asking him some of your questions and just talking lifelong football with DeJuan, and we'll see what makes DeJuan tick. So again, come back, hang out Thursday night. DeJuan will call in. We'll get some time to spend with him. So if you know a Buckeyes fan, please let him know. Forward my page to him. Share the live, and we'll make another video on it before then. So Thursday night, write it down, take a picture, do something. So again, before I cut you loose, I always end every live with this. It doesn't cost anything to be nice. It really doesn't. It doesn't cost you a dime just to be nice. I get complaints from everybody about how rude people are and how bad Karens are and just how bad the world is and society in general is anymore. We all have a part to play in that. It's not just somebody else's problem. It's all of our problem. It's a human problem. It doesn't cost anything to be nice. Positivity breeds positivity, and negativity breeds negativity. And with that being said, I want to challenge you to something, as I challenge you every night that I leave this. I challenge you to be intentional. When you go out to the world tomorrow, whether to work, to school, to whatever you're going to do, I challenge you to be intentional about saying something nice to somebody. Say something nice to somebody. Better yet, do something nice for somebody. It doesn't cost anything. And I'm not talking anything big. You don't have to buy somebody dinner. You can, but you don't have to, or anything like that. Just a random act of kindness. Hold a door open for somebody. Tell somebody thank you. Let somebody in front of you in traffic. These are the little things about humanity that we're starting to lose. And we're starting to lose our way. And trust me when I tell you, the kids and the youth that will be running this world when we're all broken down and old and gray are watching. They're watching, and they're taking mental notes. Be a good example. Be a good leader. Show them how a human should treat another human being. There's not enough of that in this world. So we all can do better. We all can be better. So with that being said, please make a valid effort at it. You'll be glad that you did. I promise you that. Thank you so much for hanging out, talking football. Come back, see me Thursday. We'll talk to DeWand, and I'm sure we'll talk some more Colts football. If you have any other questions, shoot me a message or wait till Thursday. I'll talk to you soon. Do better, be better. See you soon. Maybe.